So you're looking to start a new business and you're not sure if you should get into phone flipping or you should repair phones. Well, we'll talk about today which one makes more money, which one's more beginner friendly, which one is better overall. We'll break this down, do a little scorecard for each business. Also give you my personal opinion. Spoiler alert, I am a little bit biased because I am a phone flipper, but I'll go ahead and explain why I do what I do and why I think it's so much better. Not to say phone repair is terrible, but we'll go through it. There's pros and cons to both for sure. And I just want to cover each side of the coin there. Give you all sides of the argument. They're both good businesses. You can absolutely make a lot of money with both. But there's certain reasons why I think one is better than the other. And we'll go ahead and get into it. First of all, just to set like a baseline definition, phone flipping is just buying phones as is and selling for more. A lot of people think phone flipping is repairs, which I guess it could be a part of your process. However, traditional phone flipping is just buying and then simply selling for more. So not doing anything to the phone, maybe wiping down the screen. That's about it. Phone repair is a true service business. Customer takes their phone in, whatever the issue is, you repair the battery, repair the screen, repair the cracked back, slap a new one on there and give it back to them. They pay you for the service. Now, I actually look at phone flipping very similarly to a service-based business because it technically is. I mean, the way it operates, yes, there's some product you have to move on the back end, but if you're doing it right, it's kind of irrelevant because you already know what you're getting for the phone. So it's very easy just to move things out very quickly, price things to sell, or just send to a direct buyer. It's basically done. So it's not so much about managing the inventory. Now, if you're a direct buyer, you're wholesaling, that's completely different. Of course, that's legitimately just like wholesaling inventory. That's an inventory-based business, product-based business for sure. But when you're doing local meetups, things like that, phone flipping essentially works exactly like a service-based business. All the marketing schematics for a service-based business, particularly a local service-based business, is the same playbook for the phone flipping business. So your Facebook ads, your Google business profile, having a CRM, trying to get repeat business. It's the same process essentially. I view phone flipping businesses on a local level as a service-based business for that reason. But phone repair is it's a true service-based business. It's a legitimate service. You get paid for it. There's no product on the back end. That's where phone flipping can get a little bit interesting in my opinion, just because it operates so similarly to a service-based business, but I guess technically it isn't. I would still categorize it as one, but for simplicity's sake, those are the definitions I'm using. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, here's the categories we're going to go over. One is startup cost. We've got 8 categories for each business. We're going to talk about which one's better within each category, because I think these are 8 categories that are very important for looking at maybe starting a new business or choosing which one to branch off into long term. And so that's why I've broken up into these. Of course, startup cost is extremely important. Most beginners trying to start up a new business or a little side hustle so they can slowly work their way to maybe quitting a job or avoiding having to work a job in the future. Maybe they're in school or something. Then startup cost is going to be huge. Most people don't start a business with a ton of money. And so if you're able to start one with less money, of course, it's a lower barrier to entry, a lot faster entry. So we'll look at that. Number 2, what we're going to look at is profit margin per deal. So the average net profit percent or dollars earned per like a job or a flip in this example. Basically just how efficiently you can earn money with it. And then 2 and 3 kind of connect because time per deal, you may have insane profit margins, but if it takes you 4 hours to fulfill, well, all of a sudden it's not so good as maybe slightly less profit margins, but you're done in 30 minutes. So we'll look at that. Those two will tie into each other. We'll look at time per deal, how much hands-on time it takes to complete a deal or repair. Of course, that affects scalability and hourly rate. So that's going to be something we want to look at, which of course is number 4 then, scalability. So how easily you can hire, automate, expand your volume, your quantity of orders or services fulfilled. And that's going to determine your long-term growth potential. Next, we'll get the risk level. Risk is obviously a huge element to any business. So likelihood of losses, especially if you're starting off, you want to be as low risk as possible. So risk and startup costs are probably the biggest 2 for getting in. Of course, long-term, you think stuff like scalability and whatnot. But when you're just getting in, that's what you're going to be looking at. So of course, lower risk would be more consistent cash flow. And then also just lower likelihood that you lose everything and end up in a worse spot than you started, which is not ideal. Skill barrier is 6. So how easy to just jump right in and start earning, or how long does it take basically to get to the point where you're fluent in making money? I would say maybe a consistent side hustle income, something along those lines. We'll look at that. Number 7 will be market demand and volume. So how much demand there is locally. Higher demand, of course, would be more consistent opportunity. And then our last category will be freedom and flexibility. So can you run it from anywhere? Is it location dependent? What kind of time can you work with? Of course, higher would be better in that instance. Everyone wants more freedom, more flexibility with their life, especially their work. So each category is going to be 1 point. We'll go through and award a point to either phone flipping or phone repair based on each category. We'll break it down one category at a time because I think it's important to do that. The first one, of course, will be startup costs. So with phone flipping, you can literally start with $100, one good marketplace deal, no tools, just a little bit of capital for phones. I would say $100 is a bit less than ideal for starting a phone flipping business. The more capital you have, the more you'll make. If you've seen any other videos on my channel, you know I've said that before. That's very true. However, you can get in, you can buy a cheap phone for under $100 and sell it for more. So by all means, you don't have to be loaded rich to start off, but you do have to have at least a little bit, as is with pretty much any business. Now, as far as repair goes, there's a lot of tools, parts, laser machines, and a workspace could easily run you $1,000 to $3,000 for a legit setup. Now, like flipping, you technically don't have to have a store. You could do some sort of service, take it home, bring it back. That would be very hard to do though. Store is a lot more credible for something like that. It's a lot more standard in the repair industry. Also, you would need some money to market your service. I just think overall repair, it's very difficult to get going without any sort of credibility, without any sort of reviews, things like that. And all those things would take time, money to build up. Whereas flipping, you could go in with just a little bit of money, make cash the exact same day, flipping something on Marketplace. So I'm giving the first one to phone flipping, without a doubt, much better. And the more starting capital you have, the better it is to start flipping. No doubt about that. So 1-0 phone flipping after startup costs. The next thing is going to be profit margins. And for phone flipping, at the time of this video, these are my exact numbers. I flipped 1,801 devices for $152,149 in profit. The math on that comes out to $84.48 average profit margin. That's after ads, after shipping, after eBay fees. It's after everything except for shipping supply cost, which is like $1 to $2 a package. You could just say $82 or something. Worst case, it's better than that anyways, but that's what it would come out to. So pretty good margins with flipping. Again, no fixing, just buying and then reselling for more. So those margins are pretty impressive, I think, for not having to do any actual work once you get it. It's all just the marketing and sales, and that's it. Now with repair, I tried to find some sort of averages online across all repairs. Of course, there's marketing costs. You may have to hire out a tech in your store. But again, if you're just starting off, it's just a one-man show. I would say between $40 and $80 with room for a lot more. It just depends. That's the average per repair. It's really hard to gauge because there's battery, there's water damage repairs, there's new screens, there's new backs. All of those vary a lot. And of course, you've got overhead with marketing, with buying the new parts itself, among many other things. So I would say that's a pretty wide range. But overall, I think that's a good place to put it. Conservatively, I'd say, and of course it is a wide range, but 40 to 80 is about what you'd be looking at on average for profit margins. And so naturally, the verdict for this one is going to be phone flipping, which will take a 2-0 lead after the first two categories of profit margins and startup cost. So without a doubt, phone flipping wins those first two. But now let's talk about time per deal. So this is kind of a tricky one because with flipping, you have the meetup, you put the listing up on eBay or Facebook, or you send a direct buyer. So there's shipping involved. You got to go to the post office. Now, I would say on average, the time from start to finish of actually handling the phone itself, for me to get it, check it out, put it in my tracking sheet, and then end up shipping it out, probably between 15 to 30 minutes of phone. And you got to keep in mind as well, it can be more depending on the drive. If you're driving really far to meet up with people, that could be the case. Back in the day, my average time was way higher than it is now. just because I've built up a lot of repeats at this point. So I don't have to drive for deals. It doesn't really make sense for me to do that anymore since I don't need to. So I just meet people like 5 minutes down the road because I have enough demand where I can do that. If you're starting off, you're not going to have that. You're probably going to have to be willing to drive a bit more to go get some deals, which is fine. It's just the natural process of being a beginner, starting off, not having the luxury of having a huge repeat customer base. So that can be skewed, of course, but generally speaking, you can get to a point where that's the case. Also, there's so many things you can do at once. So I'm almost never meeting just one person at a time. Usually I stack a couple around the same time. Same thing goes for listing, for shipping. So every day, once a day, I'll list all my new items at the same time. I'll put them in my tracking sheet at the same time, and I'll ship out all my orders at the same time. So that way I'm just kind of doing things at once, and that all just kind of blends together. So it's hard to just attribute everything to one item. A lot of that stuff just gets stacked on top of each other. And of course, I'm not going back and forth one package at a time to the post office. I'll usually have a few at once and drop them off. It's just part of my daily routine at this point. So all that stuff stacks up, which makes it easy. Now, repair, on the other hand, it does depend on skill level and repair specifics. So if you're a beginner at changing a screen out, of course, your first or second time doing it will take way longer than the 100th or 200th time. Now, assuming you're a total beginner, it's going to be a bit of a learning curve to figure out how to do that. We'll touch more on that later, but assuming you're already in the business, you're like decently experienced, probably 20 to 40 minutes on average for a repair. Again, depends entirely on skill level. That's why there's a wider range there. Now, one more thing to note with phone flipping, however, is unlike repairs where you get paid right away once the service is completed, or maybe even beforehand, I'm not sure how that works. I would imagine once it's done, the customer comes in and pays, get their device back. With flips, it may be a week before you get paid, especially if you're shipping to direct buy or you're shipping on eBay. eBay, unless your account's brand new, you'll get the money right away. With the direct buyer, has to arrive. They have to go pick it up from their PO box. They have to inspect it, grade it, send you the invoice. You have to approve it. And then they send you the bank transfer, which sometimes takes 3 to 5 days to even process into your account. So if you're low capital, all of a sudden that really adds up. So it's not just time per deal, but it's like time till you get that money back and you can reinvest, which is huge for phone flipping. So I think if you're a total beginner, that's something you have to consider. And especially with the driving, that can really vary. I think it's just probably on average for the average phone flipper, not going to be as ideal as repairs in terms of time. So time per deal, this one's going to go to repair just because it's more consistent, more reliable. I think if you get very advanced with flipping, you can get to a point where that's not really a concern, in which case flipping would have the upper hand. But if you're a beginner, a novice, then of course repairs would have to take the lead here. So phone flipping still ahead 2-1 after the first 3, but time per deal is going to go to repairs. Now, in terms of scalability, this is a tough one to gauge. And the reason for that is I'm not in the phone repair business, so I can't really speak to it too much. I did a lot of research for this video and I came to some conclusions. So with flipping, I feel like there's just such a clear-cut path to scale with paid ads. Of course, with Facebook Marketplace, there's only so far you can go, but with paid ads, putting the right systems in place, I think it's very clear and anyone can succeed doing that. And the reason for that is because everyone has phones, everyone has electronics, doesn't matter where you are in the world. They're going to exist unless you're in like villages in Nepal or something. But generally speaking, that's going to be the case. You're going to be around people with electronics. Now, I will say for flipping, it's very difficult to hire for this business. The reason for that is because a lot of cash is involved. So to find someone you trust, unless you're hiring a family member or something, it's going to be very difficult to trust people when you're giving them a bunch of cash to go out and be a runner for you. So that's probably going to be out of the question. The one thing that really makes sense is you could get a VA to run your CRM, but you don't really need that because it doesn't take that much time to handle the negotiation, set up meetups. That might be worth the cost once you get to a certain point, but then you're still the one doing the running, the eBay listing, managing all the inventory. And since there's so many different jobs, you could maybe hire someone to do it all, but then they basically just know the ins and outs of the entire business. And so the risk at that point would be, well, why don't they just go off and do exactly what you're doing? And now they're a competitor. So that's something I've thought a lot about. I just think it's very difficult to hire. Completely different ballgame again if you're a direct buyer, but at the local level, I find it very difficult to do that. But as a solo business, I think it's absolutely achievable for anyone to hit $10,000 a month. And I would say it's much harder to scale significantly beyond that in terms of like 20, 30K a month. I think if you really pushed it and we're in a great local market, 20K a month is doable with the right system. Beyond that, you would have to hire some sort of team or something. And that's when things would get really dicey. Or you'd have to have, of course, orders coming in terms of the mail, shipping them in. And again, you would have to hire a team for that. And that would make more sense. That's like the direct buyer route. Again, that's a whole different business really than the local game. That's why it's so hard to say. Repair, on the other hand, you can hire paid technicians. You can train people on how to replace the screen. They're not going to run off and start some store or something, assuming you have some sort of shop at that point. If you're hiring paid technicians, you probably have a little repair shop or something. There's other ways to increase LTV with repair shops. You see it all the time. Some of them actually do flips. In this instance, we're just assuming they don't. Cell phone cases, there's always things to buy within the store. Other services I'm sure that they offer. So the electronics repair, you can hire people, you can train them how to do the service, or find someone maybe who already knows how to do it. There's a lot of people out there who know how to fix phone screens, that kind of thing. And it helps when you have the equipment, they can just use it. You pay them an hourly wage. Then you can kind of remove yourself from the business, maybe open a different location down the road, something like that. Just nailing one local model, which is a bunch of other places have done. So I think it wouldn't be too difficult to figure out how to do that. And then you would look at maybe opening more locations. With flipping, it's just very hard because by the time you would hire out all those different things of the business, you'd be almost back to zero in terms of money coming in. I looked at it, it's very difficult, but it is a great solo business. So what I came down to was, I think for phone flipping, so much easier to hit that 10 grand a month mark. Beyond that, if you're trying to go to like $1 million a year plus or just crazy numbers, the repair game, I think, is a more clear-cut path to get there. Doesn't mean you can't do it with either. Of course, there's companies that exist for both flipping and repair that have done incredible numbers. So there's no right or wrong answer there. That's just my outside view on that. So again, if you were trying to build something that's maybe $1 million a year and you were just starting off, I think repair is the quicker route. If you're trying to just hit 10K a month, I think flipping is the faster route. So that's what I came to a conclusion on. But overall, I just gave this to repair just because I think if you want to go farther, repairing is probably a little bit better. It was a tough call. I could honestly go either way on it, but I'm going to go repair and just give it a 2-2 tie. Again, difficult call, but that's where I went. Now, flipping for risk level. Risk level, of course, very important if you're starting off. You have risk of scams. You've got bad IMEIs that you could have on the local marketplace, or maybe you buy something and it ends up going bad. You don't know how to handle it as a beginner. A lot of returns happen on eBay. You overpay for items because you're new. I think these are all pretty negligible though. Again, the biggest one's probably just meeting up with unknown people from the internet, from Facebook Marketplace. That's why I put this Facebook Marketplace meetups be like meme. It's pretty true. I mean, I've met with a lot of really weird people from Facebook Marketplace. There's no doubt about that. So there's some risk involved there. But I'd say it's pretty manageable with experience in terms of meeting up with people, meeting somewhere public. All the main risks with phone flipping can be avoided with just better knowledge. And you're never going to be 100% risk-free, but you're never going to be 100% risk-free in any business or really any situation in life. Even if you bunker yourself in your house and never go outside, you could still get cancer or something. So you're never going to avoid all risk. Relatively speaking, phone flipping is a very low risk business, in my opinion. In terms of phone repair, I'd say it's pretty low risk as well. You could get paid before the repair or immediately after, and you'd have their device. You're not going to really get scammed in the repair games. Few chances to lose money. The one way I think you could really risk is if you actually like damage a phone or you have a tech who damages one while repairing it. That would, of course, be a big risky run because then you would have to risk potentially maybe replacing the cost of the entire device for the customer. And so, again, both are really low risk. I would say repair is probably just slightly lower because there's really no way you could screw it up. This could be a tie. It's a total toss-up. When I was creating this presentation, though, I had phone repairs just slightly lower risk, and it mainly comes down to You never know who you're going to meet up with people. If you do this long enough, you'll probably get robbed. I've been robbed, thankfully not at gunpoint, but I've been given counterfeit cash. It's just kind of something that is almost inevitable. And I don't say that to scare you away, but you meet up with enough people, you'll probably run into it crazy at some point. So phone repair is probably just slightly safer overall, but very, very close. I would say it's a very thin line there. Next up is going to be skill barrier. So flipping is like no skill required. And I say that jokingly because of course there's skill, but it's so low. I mean, there's two things you have to know, and it's negotiation and appraising phones. You can acquire both of those in a day. And by the way, these skills aren't even like that skillful. For appraising phones, you go to eBay, look at sold listings for the item you're about to buy, then buy it for less. And negotiation, I have a bunch of negotiation scripts for free on my channel, videos talking about how I use them. I have documents literally outlining the scripts with flowcharts. You can just copy and paste them, and that's done. So you don't even have to learn it, just paste it in how I have it, and that's taken care of. So both those can be acquired in a day. Very simple to learn, almost no skill needed to start. I say that genuinely. That's why I'm so high on the phone flipping game, because you can go out, not make money tomorrow, a week from now, a month, a year. You can make money the exact same day just by shooting out messages. So that's why I love this business so much. In terms of repair, you have to have a skill, an actual technical, physical skill. It's like a trade business almost. It requires that skill of you to go in, repair. You have to know how the device works. Of course, I think now with YouTube being such a free resource, it wouldn't be that hard. You'd have to have probably a phone to play around with and get good at. But to get fluent and get really good at it, I imagine it could take up to 1 to 3 months. Of course, you could get there way quicker than that. But to be really good at it, to know multiple kinds of repairs, because there's more than just cracked screens for phones, of course. So to really build up that skill set, it's just going to be a much different skill barrier, because it actually does require skill to repair, whereas it really just doesn't to flip. So with that being said, that one's obviously going to flipping, and we're at a 3-3 tie. And that's going to bring us into number 7, which is market demand. Now, in terms of flips, literally everyone has a phone. Sometimes they have multiple phones. You can buy more electronics. Everyone has phones. They've got watches, gaming consoles. So you can buy a whole bunch of stuff. Pretty much anyone who has an Apple device has another Apple device, and they all work about the same. So if you know how to check an iPhone, you can just check an iPad the exact same way, Apple Watch, MacBook. It's not that hard to figure out once you know how to do an iPhone. Everything's very similar. And I buy broken phones all the time, which leads me to get great margins without ever even repairing them. So actually, some of my favorite devices to buy are the broken ones, because people undervalue them in their mind. And thanks to some of the repair guys for charging ridiculous costs on repairs, that's how I'm able to do that. It helps a lot if someone has a cracked back phone. And for me, it's only like $50 to $100 less on eBay, but it costs them $200-$300 to go to Apple or Best Buy to get it fixed. That's where you get those discrepancies, and that's why those are such good flips with high profit margins. Now, of course, if you're repairing, everyone cracks screens. It's very common. I see broken devices all the time that I'm buying, so I can't even imagine how many of those are going to repair shops for people who don't want to get a new phone and just get them repaired instead. There's always going to be constant local demand for repair shops. Every day, someone in the town's going to be dropping their phone, breaking something. So I think once you get to a point where your name's out there, you're reputable, it would be pretty easy to fill a schedule. However, in general, it's just hard to beat everybody. So not everyone has a cracked phone, but everyone has a phone. And everyone's going to get a new phone eventually, but not everyone's going to crack their phone eventually or break it. So that's why flipping just wins by default, basically. I'm going 4-3 phone flipping after that, which will bring us into the final one, our final category here, which is freedom and flexibility. And this one's pretty easily going to go to phone flipping as well, because you can flip phones anywhere. You could be on vacation, flip phones, find phones, just change your ads to that area. Start looking on Marketplace, that easy. You can run it from anywhere. You can ship packages out from anywhere. Skill set doesn't change. There's always going to be phones no matter where you go, always going to be electronics to buy. You don't need a storefront. You just run around, meet people in public, give them cash, done deal. With repairs, I know there are some mobile repair services that exist. I just think it'd be more difficult. A lot of times you see storefronts in the repair business. Even if you're running the runaround mobile service, I still think it's just slightly less reliable and less flexible because you do have to have set appointment times. It takes longer. There's inventory you have to carry with you. And then the hours really do restrict your freedom. So that one's a no-brainer. It's going to go to phone flipping. So all in all, phone flipping clears. And even the ones that I gave to repair were pretty generous. As you can see, they were pretty close to being on the line. So it's really not as close as the score shows. Phone flipping is just a much better business than repairs, in my opinion. When the margins are better and it requires less skill and it requires less starting capital, it just makes so much more sense to go with phone flipping, in my opinion. So that's exactly what I would do if I was starting off. I'm going to include a few more things here that I've noticed. I have a guy locally who I was friends with. He runs one of the local repair shops near me. And he was just telling me how much he hates Apple. And I was like, why do you hate Apple? And this is when I first started reselling devices, seriously at least. And he was saying, well, they put these display messages and they tie it to the serial number. So even if you buy a genuine Apple screen and you replace it, this goes for batteries, cameras, all of it. You may get the original part on eBay or something, take the old one off, put the new one on, and it'll say unable to verify if this iPhone has a genuine Apple display. Well, the reason for that is because they've now changed it so the displays are attached to the serial number. And the only way to not get that message is to use Apple or a certified Apple partner as a refurbisher, because they are the only ones that can use the software to remove that message. It's not a physical thing. It's just coded into the software where if you don't have the tools, you can't do anything about it. And only they have the tools. So they've basically created this monopoly on repairs. And that's why repair shops hate them. And that's why repairs in general are getting worse, because most people are going to come in with iPhones. And when you put these on, it ends up devaluing the phone. And so a lot of people, look, there's some repair stores that just use some of these cheap aftermarket screens as well. You've probably seen them. They look horrible. I just don't think that's good business to do that. But that's what you see a lot of these repair stores doing, because even if you could put a real screen on, you're going to get that error message. And so even if you're doing fix and flips, which I'll touch a little bit more on in a second, the problem is if you're doing screens, you're going to end up getting these error messages. So you might as well not even do it. It's going to end up being graded as an aftermarket display, which will devalue the phone with direct buyer, or even selling on eBay. It's not going to be as good. So they've really got a monopoly on the repairs. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way it is. They've done that. For me, where I think repairs make sense, it's just a supplement to your flipping business. If you're already flipping and you just have an interest in repairs, I think it's a great supplement because you could just do fix and flips. So especially with like your cracked back iPhone, Samsung, good thing about cracked back is you're not going to get an error message if you fix those. You can invest in one of the laser machines. It'll peel the back off. That's the other thing about the iPhones is they have like this cement adhesive essentially. So you have to have the heavy machinery to even remove it, which it used to not be like that. Just another way Apple's tried to control the game. But if you have it, you want to invest in that, you could make a good bit more money. Every time you buy the cracked phones, you repair them, and then you'd be able to flip it, make an extra whatever profit margin. I'm not sure what it would come out to, but I think it would be significant. It would definitely add up over time. Of course, with Samsung, those are super easy to take apart. I've never done it, but I know people who repair. As I've said, they all love repairing Samsungs because the phones almost just like pop out. It's just made basically to fix, for regular people to fix, that is. So Samsungs are great for that. If you want to do fix and flips, I'm all for it. Overall, phone flipping is far and away the better business in my opinion. But fix and flips, increase profit margins, adds up a lot over time. Another thing you could do, another skill if you're trying to go down that route, HDMI port repairs for gaming consoles, one of the most common things I see. Can't tell you how many people have sold me consoles and they either tell me or don't tell me that the HDMI port isn't working. So I've gotten burned there. Now I know to just test it to see if it's loose or anything. But for whatever reason, those break all the time. I don't know if people are roughing them up or how that even happens, but they're just not designed well. I guess HDMI ports for gaming consoles are always breaking. And I actually have seen signs in my city of people saying HDMI port repair for consoles with their number on it. So there's a lot of money to be made there. especially with fix and flips. If you want to do a service as well, you could. I would try to just buy the HDMI port broken and then fix it. There's a bunch of them that get sold on eBay, and that's exactly what people do. They fix them, sell them for more. What's great about that is you can just order stock from eBay and you'd be able to flip it yourself and sell it back to eBay for more money. You won't have to be running around locally. You could just order stuff and the cycle would continue. So as many as you could flip and fix, that's how much money you can make. And I think that's a pretty cool business there because there's a lot of those that get posted up on eBay as is. I, for one, don't fix them. So you could just find some of my listings, buy it for me. It'd be great for me. It'd be great for you if you do end up learning how to fix those. So just another thing you could look at. Thought I'd throw that in. Lots of money to be made with those. But all in all, listen, guys, phone flipping is the way to go. I think it's one of the best businesses you could start, especially now. It's not oversaturated. It's not like a lot of these other businesses. The cool thing about it is, no, it's not an online business, but you can run it from anywhere. So any location, you go on vacation, keep making money. It's completely location independent, very flexible, so much freedom, and surprisingly a very good amount of money to be made. I'm on pace for my best month ever. I won't reveal yet because I'm probably going to do a video discussing how I got there, but you can make well over 10 grand a month with this business. I'll say that very repeatedly. Once those repeats start coming in, you can really start to feel unstoppable with this. If you guys are interested in starting your own business or learning how to scale up to those kind of numbers with a phone flipping business, go to phoneflippers.com/start. From there, there's a video on that page. Talk a little bit about my journey. You're also able to book a free strategy call with me if you'd like some tips and tricks to grow your business to the next level. Be happy to help you or just get you off the ground if you haven't started yet. So wherever you're at, I'll meet you there. Happy to help you. Thank you guys again for watching. Let me know in the comments if there's any other videos you guys would like to see me make because I'm always looking for new video ideas. But I hope this one was helpful. I know this is kind of a common debate, something people think about. So wanted to clear the air on that, give my 2 cents. And again, I hope that was helpful. Just want to appreciate all you guys for watching. See you in the next one.